or something, but that is revolutionary.
Yeah.
And I have never wanted to have a video of myself, not even at my wedding. I don't like getting pictures taken. I thought I could never do this. And I drank a lot of wine before the first video that I keep meaning to take off of YouTube
because use it for the recipe.
It's a very slurry video, but literally for weeks my husband was saying, will you just do a video, where instead I'd got the camera, I'd got the laptop, I'd learned how to do everything apart from actually making the video. So and then once I made one and I put it out and thought I'll test it and see what people think. And it just really went from there. I haven't tried particularly hard to do this. It's just been people started to write in to say, that was brilliant. Would you do a chicken one? That was great. Would you do a vegetarian one? It's been very organic. I haven't sort of like pushed it out there. And even when HarperCollins got in touch, they got in touch with me. You know, I wasn't there sort of punting it or anything. It just sort of naturally occurred, which is how I like things to work in life.
Yeah. Just last week, we were on a Perthshire farm with a farmer called Martin Kennedy, who actually kind of came to my attention in many ways because he puts a lot of stuff on Facebook, which is a very rational and logical argument about the benefits that farming delivers for the countryside. So it's obvious that Facebook and other social media platforms are really beneficial for businesses like yours or initiatives like yours. Have you ever seen the not so nice side of social media at all?
So I do think it's hugely beneficial. I think you're completely right there. And it's great if you live rurally that you can get stuff out. Yeah, there is always a negative side of it. So YouTube is always more negative than the rest of social media. And that's because a video will just pop up. Somebody's been watching something else. Then they don't quite understand what yours are, where on other social media, people have chosen to follow you.
Yes.
I make it a point, and always have, that I respond to everything. And I will respond to a negative comment if there's a reason for it and I need to let them know. But generally, I don't read much. Like if I'm in newspapers or magazine articles, I never read any of the comments, ever. If I'm online, I don't read it. So I think for mental health, it's good to put stuff out there, answer all the good bits that you can, and, you know, leave the other bits alone.
Yeah, quite right.
It's amazing, I think, because I've managed to, for anybody who's out there who's rural as well, is you can create a business now from living anywhere at all. And you can reach a vast amount of people around the world. The book launches in America in May, in Australia, it's going all over Europe. I mean, who would have thought from a farmhouse in the Ettrick Valley that you could, you know, tap into that many people? And actually you can nowadays. If you've got a decent amount of internet access, then you can do anything.
Actually, what advice would you have for anybody out there in rural Scotland who's thinking, I've got a bit of a seed of a business idea, but I don't know what to do next?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, actually. I think I would really say is you need to not think about it as a business. I never started this wanting to create a business. I didn't plan to ever start it. It was just some mums at the school gate asking me to show them how to batch cook and then say to put it on YouTube and Facebook, and it went from there. And for 2 years, I started 2.5 years ago, and it's all been free content. Now, you can make money through different ways, but, you know, if you're doing some demos and things like that, but you really have to give people a lot of free content and free information. People aren't going to buy from somebody when they don't know who they are. Yeah. So I think that's the main pitfall that people sometimes do, is expecting that people will automatically be able to create some money from this. And it has to be thought of more long term. But what I would say is, when it happens, in terms of, you know, getting some amazing feedback, is it's really good for your quality of life. You know, if you feel like you're helping people, and people are getting in touch with you all the time saying, you know, this is great, I've got 4 children, you've really helped me, I'm working full time, I'm a GP and I'm struggling to manage, and it's been great, then that really, really helps. And it's those things that are significant to me, rather than the sort of massive business idea. I think that naturally progresses itself if you can just give somebody the sort of information that you want to give them.
So do you think that's what gives you the most satisfaction then, despite the book and everything? Do you think that's the kind of the original motivation is still what gives you the most satisfaction?
Yeah, I think it's part of it, definitely. The other part is, I'm 44 years old. I studied a master's degree in time management. That's what I'm really into. That's why I'm doing this. That's not really the cookery aspect of it. It's more about saving time. And being in a rural place on a farm with 2 kids, I did start to feel like I was going a bit brain dead. So the fact that I'm actually learning new stuff every day, you know, I've learned to edit a video. I've learned, I mean, I didn't have, I shared a email account with my husband. You know, now the fact of learning something new every day, and every day I'm still learning new things, you know, of how to create a different type of video, or writing a book was completely new to me and doing that. So it's really allowed me, I feel young compared to what I did when I was sort of in that drudgery of, not as drudgery, I loved being with the kids, but you know, you do feel slightly switched off. And so I definitely feel like I'm back being the 25-year-old I was before I had kids. And what I would say as well is, of course, when I'm doing these videos and I'm creating the meal in front of people who are watching it, I've actually then saved the time, because that's what we're eating that night. And half of it's going in the freezer. So I sort of, although I am doing the videos for YouTube and for Facebook, I'm actually using all of that stuff to feed everybody on the farm.
Absolutely.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Now, I remember, this has kind of always stuck in my mind. I remember when I first met you, which was very much after you'd started, but it was before the kind of the book deal and everything. And you described to me all of the different benefits that people can derive from batch cooking. And I have to admit that I had probably only seen the most obvious one, which is that you have a load of delicious meals in your freezer. But you talked to me about how it can save money and sort of mental energy and things like that. So can you maybe talk us through what the benefits that people do get when they kind of embrace the whole batching ethos?
So I think that no matter whether you love cooking or whether you hate cooking, and it's like this with anything in life, if you are going to do it or be asked to do something every single day of your life, that becomes a chore. And we're all nowadays inundated with the fact of, we need to try to save money. We don't want to use very much plastics. We want to give nutritious meals to our kids. We need a variety of meals to give to our kids. We're all working a lot of long hours compared to what it used to be years ago. And all of that creates a lot of sort of, you know, it's quite hard mentally on your headspace. And that's not just food. You could then look at everything else that becomes a chore, you know, that you do, that sort of Groundhog Day that you do every single day. So I think what batching food does is it allows you to be quite mindful of what you're buying and when you're cooking. Sort of like on a Sunday morning, I might do 10 meals. It takes me an hour. I'll put them in the freezer, and I feel a great sense of sort of achievement. I've done it. It's done for the time ahead. I know my family are being fed. And also there's a ton of people that are probably like what I am sometimes when I'm not that organised, is at 3:00 in the afternoon, you're still at work, but you're thinking, what am I going to feed everybody? How's it going to work? And, you know, batching takes that away. It really does. If I said to you, Anna, that you're going to come in every night and you're going to have a meal that just needs put in the oven for 30 minutes, it's homemade, it's nutritious, you're only going to have to wash one dish that it was in, and you'll have that every single night, you jump at it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think also, we've talked about kind of panic buying in the context of coronavirus, but actually I think some people panic buy almost on a daily basis because they think, I don't know what we're going to have for supper. So they go into the supermarket and just grab what they see and end up maybe buying things that don't necessarily go together, or spending more money than they need to because they haven't planned out their shop. And so I think it's benefiting in that way as well.
I've been doing quite a lot of work with Love Food, Hate Waste. And it is about sort of, I mean, when we waste food, although it's sometimes seen as quite a boring topic, but actually you're not only wasting money, but you're wasting the time that it took you to go and choose that, to then bring it home, take it out of a bag, put it in your fridge, take it out of the fridge, put it in the bin. You know, there's a lot that goes with that amongst wasting the food itself.
And they're wasting the time of the person who's grown that food as well.
Without a doubt. And if it's a pepper, you know, where it's flown from and all of that stuff. So the meals that I show you how to make, I show you how to portion them out as well, so that actually you're not being left with leftovers. You're making your own ready meals. That's basically the best way to look at
absolutely. It. And I suppose also, certainly in my household, this won't be the same for everybody, but actually it's quite a good way also of preventing a little bit of unnecessary greediness. Because I know if I make, or if my husband makes a meal from scratch just for that night, there might be just a little bit more than we really need. And sometimes the temptation is, we'll just finish it. Whereas if you pre-portion things, you're actually eating a healthy portion size because you've done it yourself deliberately like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, apart from I'm not a size 8, so I'm obviously not eating that much of a healthy portion size, although I do like coffee and a scone. So, I will steer away from that, I'd say. But no, what I would say is, the portion sizes are quite funny because I show you how to portion control. But obviously some people write into me and say, your portions are huge. And other people write in and say, these portions are tiny.
Yeah. We've seen your amazing freezers, and you explained to us about you use the bags, the reusable freezer bags, so you wash them and use them again. Are there any other kind of tools of the trade that you really recommend in terms of making the batching journey easier for people?
So actually what I would always say is you don't need very much. You need a huge big pot, which most people tend to have. I would always say a set of cups, those spoon cups that you get. The recipes in the book and on my website are all in cups. And the reason is it's really quick to use. So you're not having to weigh things out. It's put in 3 cups, and when you're portioning it out, like a cup of bolognese is a portion, So I would say cups are definitely good. Your bags that you can put stuff in is great. Now got silicone bags as well. They're not as cheap, but they then last. It's like a bit like buying your Tupperware, so they're always very good. So you really don't need very much at all. The recipes in the book are all paired with, so if you've got one meal, it shows you how to do another meal that's quite similar. So if you're going to be making fish pie, you can also make a fish chowder in the same amount of time. And so as long as you are you've got enough things in that you can put them in either. So Pyrex dishes with the lid on the top that you get are fantastic.
If for whatever reason somebody's not had a chance to go to the shop, so they don't necessarily have the ingredients they need for one of your recipes in the book, have you got any kind of store cupboardy tips up your sleeve that might be helpful for a kind of emergency situation?
Actually, I just did an article on this, funnily enough, yesterday for a newspaper that's about to come out. So store cupboardy tips are really I include in the store cupboard my freezer. So frozen fruit and veg, always fantastic. Things like cans of tuna that you can then make into more of a pasta bake, your tinned vegetables. One of the things that I would always recommend, and I've used it a few times in my book as well, is Campbell's condensed soup.
Oh,
it is fantastic, easy,
that's a grandma staple,
isn't
it? Yeah, I love
and
that.
Everybody laughs about it and goes, what about those people that use condensed soup? Condensed soup is fantastic. You can make a chicken pie out of 2 leftover chicken breasts and some tinned vegetables, and you've got this creamy chicken pie that is actually, if you thought about it, it's like feeding your children soup with chicken in it. I mean, it's healthy, it's good. Yes. Those things are amazing, and I swear by them.
You've got the veg as well.
Yeah. So yes, definitely condensed soup. Go and buy condensed soup, everybody. It's a perfect one to have in.
And they don't even sponsor you, so that's like a free tip.
Yes, Campbell's, if you're listening,
get in touch. Now I know in your videos you do cook on your Aga because we're sitting in the farmhouse kitchen next to an Aga, but you don't talk about it specifically, understandably, because not that many people in the wider population have an Aga. But we are a farming and rural podcast, so there will be a few people listening who have an Aga. Do you enjoy cooking on it? Have you got any kind of unique tips for Aga owners that might be different for other people?
So I love cooking on it. I mean, I've always cooked in an Aga, so to me, it is the best way that you could possibly cook. But you're right, I don't really mention it, and it's because there's a lot of people that don't have one. But I absolutely love it. I love the slow bottom oven because you can just throw stuff in there. I also like the fact that you can cook anything in the top oven and then just leave it sort of warm for people coming in. So quite often if I've got kids coming in at different times, they can just scoop out what they want out of it. So I absolutely love it. My top tip that I just learned the other day is that on the top of your Aga, on your, what am I calling the top, on my plate, if you want something to sit for a long time and simmer, but your cooler plate is still too hot, you get 3 2-pence pieces and sit them on a triangle, and then sit your pot on top of the 2p pieces, and it'll just have enough heat to sort of radiate and simmer away.
I did not know that either.
There you go.
That's life-changing.
It's my top agate tip.
That's amazing.
We'll leave the chat there.